Welcome back to Reading Bear. Today, we will take a look at some new revenge stories. And if you enjoyed my content, please don't forget to subscribe to my channel and post some bear emojis in the comments. Let's go!
First one is titled, Sociopath Manager Gets Jail Time. Do not duck with me. I'm blunt and stubborn. Also, I'm better at my job than you will ever, so just get over that now. Also, I hate my career field. I work in tech, but I'm not going to be more specific than that. A note on the stubbornness: I am the most stubborn and blunt, rude if you push me person you will ever meet. I expect everyone, doubly so for management, to do the right thing even when no one is looking. One of the things I have learned is that narcissists and sociopaths cannot ducking stand me. They will actively melt down if they work with people like myself. Those people thrive when people have to be nice. The exception to my stubborn bluntness? If you work under me, I help everyone working under me with everything they need 100% of the time and am super friendly unless they give me a reason not to be. I treat people under me, in terms of technical position and in the company's hierarchy, like royalty, and the people beside and above me like, you should be at least as competent as myself, no excuses. Example, if you lie about me, to me, well, I had better be getting an open and public apology to the people who you lied to with the admission of guilt, or I'm going to make you regret it. Best not be treating anyone else below you bad either. Lots of managers have a problem with this for some reason. Don't want this to happen. Don't lie. Now, with that said, I have a constant wave of job opportunities. Every company I've ever worked for, including the one that fired me, begging to have me back at a higher pay rate than what I made when I worked there. Actually about 25% more than the highest pay in the country I live in. So I'm not in any position to care if someone is going to fire me. Now that's out of the way, at my current job I've worked here for about 2.5 years. I took this job because it was going to allow me to have the time off I wanted, about 35 days of PTO, and 10 weeks, first 2 unpaid, of vacation time. It's a long story, but basically I need the time off. I was hired in at about 50% of the standard rate of pay for this reason. Contractually I can take this time off any time I want. I could, if I so desired, leave work midday and go on vacation. When I first started, the company laid off every other IT guy after about a year aside from 2. Those guys are mostly there to cover me leaving suddenly and if someone needs to pull something while I work on something else. My previous manager actually recommended me to manage the department, but I didn't want to take it, so the company gave me an open door to take a said position any time I wanted, and they would just demote anyone in said position. This is where sociopath comes in, to manage. The first day he pulls us all, my team plus one more, into a meeting and talks about how he's a nice guy but is going to drive us to work extra hard. This is where the first altercation occurs. Yeah, how is that the case? Other team is purely reactionary and our team has literally no issues inside the company, and 100% of our work is completed at nearly 3 times the rate of any other business in the area. We will hold questions for private meetings. Okay, fair enough. He pulls me in and the first thing out of his mouth is to yell at me, I never want you to question me ever again. I was honestly stunned. Excuse me? You will do what I say when I say. Now get out. He wraps up the meeting by saying, I'm really glad to have gotten this job because I cannot leave this town due to the fact that I am obligated to watch my kids half of the year. So I can't wait to get to know all of you. I immediately went to HR as soon as the meeting was over and explained the situation. Thing is, HR is the guy who hired me, and we like each other a lot. He tells me, okay, well, unfortunately, it would be against company policy to fire him this quickly. Also, I have to take his side of the story first. He didn't yell at me after I went and spoke to HR, but called me in and said, listen, they are telling me to apologize to you, and that's just not going to happen. I'm your boss, it's my right to treat you how I see fit. I didn't realize you were a rat, but now that I know that, I'm afraid that I am going to be extra hard on you. Better do what I say or it's your job. I replied, it's not your job to yell at people, and maybe you should understand that. If you were half as competent as you want to seem, I don't think you would ever have a reason to yell at anyone. Also, if reporting behavior that is against company policy makes me a rat, then being a rat must be a good thing. He just yelled, "Get the duck out," and pointed at the door. I replied, "I'm afraid I'm going to have to go to HR again about your behavior if you don't apologize now," which I did. The issue? Well, I live in a one-party state for recording conversations. So I recorded said conversation. 3 weeks later, and HR has decided to keep him on because we are still way ahead of everyone in terms of metrics. Since then, my team and the other team have gone from loving their job to hating it. Everyone is reporting to me that he is screaming at them constantly, but only in private. He doesn't even speak to me. The way he is treating the guys under me is what was really getting to me. They are his employees, he should not be treating them this way. I hate to use a quote from The Office here, but Michael Scott is 100% correct. A manager is not here to hire and fire, but to lead and inspire. Now we are supposed to have certain metrics passed down to us by management, but he has decided against that to keep morale up. However, I knew what he was up to. So I went to my friend in HR and didn't tell him that he wasn't sending me the metrics, which he is required to do as per company policy, and had him send me a copy of everyone's metrics early, but keep it on the down low, so he did. For several months I told my team and the people under me, just hold out on quitting, he won't be here for long, trust me. Slowly things between myself and him escalate. I make decisions that he doesn't like because you didn't run that past me first, in reference to my vacations and days off. Contractually, I don't have to do this, and to be blunt, I can't ducking stand him, so he's just sole when it comes to me not being there. This leads to several times of him trying to scream at me while I sat there and was 100% calm and patient, but blunt and moving in my position that I can take leave whenever I want contractually, and he is just going to have to get over that. One of the things I specifically remember him yelling at me the last time, "You will do whatever I tell you whenever I tell you. If I throw a ball and say fetch, you will ducking retrieve it. Do you understand?" At this point, I lost my patience and said, "Are you done yet? Okay, great, you are going to listen to me now. You are hands down the worst manager I have ever worked under. You are unproductive, and the least competent. The other two guys' metrics have been falling since you have been hired. Him, because you're dumb but never listens to me. You are the problem here, not me. Get out now." Me, "Are you done? Because I think you are going to want to hear what I have to tell you. Your absolute childish behavior is unacceptable, and I don't think that your supervisors or HR are going to appreciate how you have treated myself or this." At this point he gets up, grabs the chair in which I'm sitting, and literally rolls it towards his door screaming, "I don't have to listen to a hole like you. I'm the boss. Do what you are told." I replied, "I hope you know this can be considered assault and battery." Him, "Shut the duck up," and he promptly rolls me out of the office. Now here is the thing, before that meeting, I said I wanted an HR rep to sit outside of the office and listen in. They said they couldn't do that but would place one in the meeting. He was late. He overheard he last shut the duck up. Just as he rolls me out into the hall, he then proceeded to look up, see HR, and start sweating bullets. Him, "Oh, hoo-hoo, we were just joking around." Looking up at him, "No, we weren't. He was just screaming at me and insulting me for no apparent reason." He looks down at me hard and says, "This team always jokes around. I mean, it was just a joke." I then pull out a small recorder and looked at HR and said, "Well, given that you missed the meeting, I think you should just review it here on this tape, as this is just a joke. Apparently performance reviews are just a joke around here now." HR insists we go over the performance review. He pulls his copy out and begins going over the metrics on it, talking about how bad of an employee I am. As soon as he finishes, I look at the sheet of paper he is going over. I pull the metrics that my buddy in HR sent me. No, I'm afraid this is all wrong." He looks at me, I'm sorry. Me, "Oh yeah, buddy in HR sent me my metrics independent of what you sent me. In fact, and I can't believe you didn't know this, all of the metrics are review-able by any employee at any time if they make an inquiry. Actually, you have failed to send us any metrics at all, as is your job to do weekly." The HR rep then looks at me, "Is that all?" Me, "Yes." HR rep, "Okay, I think we are done here." He requests that I stay. I look at him and reply, "No, I'm afraid I'm done listening to anything you have to tell me. Afraid I have an appointment to review your behavior with HR." So HR and I review the tape and their jaws are on the floor. HR buddy apologizes to me. They ask me what I think should happen as I was the one who was originally up for promotion. I explain that he should not only have to write a letter apologizing for his behavior in email form, but also apologize to all the teams under him in person at one time. Just after they send an email to him, I drop by his office and say, "Hey man, don't worry. I didn't let them review that tape." He sends an apology letter and tells me that you are on my good side now. A few moments later, HR comes down and tells him that it's not enough and to have all the teams gather in front of him. In the meantime, I rig up the conference room to have a typed letter of all the times he has yelled at every single person, which took me all night to do. He comes in and makes some BS apology. "That's a non-apology. I'm sorry I was so hard on you guys. I just know your potential," and I cut him off. "HR isn't in the room, excuse me? That's not good enough. I'm afraid you are going to need to apologize for your actual behavior and not give an apology that sounds like 'I'm sorry I was trying to help you and you didn't like it.' No, I'm afraid you are going to need to actually apologize and admit to wrongdoing and tell the actual truth." At which point he visibly starts to get angry. "I am apologizing." Me, "Okay, go on." Him, more non-apology with him being obviously fake upset. I press play on the slideshow. "Okay, since you didn't get the message the first time, we are going to go through these individually. On December 11, 2001, you screamed at Robert Robington, wherein you failed to give him a review and simply called him a dumbit. I continue, you need to repeat these words exactly if you want to keep your job. Dear Mr. Rob, I apologize for being overtly hostile and rude. I apologize for failing at my responsibilities as a manager to both you and the team. I understand I have a problem with anger and am willing to seek help with my clear lack of empathy for other people. As such, I will be signing a document admitting fault. Under the circumstances that I ever hit you again, I want everyone to know that I would be 100% at fault and you would not be, and proof of my misbehavior towards you as proof of my honesty in apologizing. 2 witnesses will be signing this document." As soon as I finish speaking, he stands there and starts turning angrily red and says, "Mr. Burrington, we need to speak alone now." I reply, "No, I'm afraid we don't. If you do not wish to apologize to Robert Robington, then you can apologize to me for this." At which point I play the audio of him talking to me. "I really hope your family member dies. I mean really. I'm your boss and this is your job and you care about family member? You think I give a duck about them or you? You could die for all I ducking care. When family dies, if you mourn, I'll be mocking you. I just want you to know that. Now duck off." You see, after that little incident, I couldn't have given a duck if I did get fired. I just wanted to ruin this guy's life. He immediately starts howling at me that I edited the audio and runs to get HR. Shortly thereafter, HR comes back and the entire room denies that any of this happened. We all instead go through with a plan I had from the beginning. I was going to expose him for the POS he is if he does not honestly apologize and admit to actual wrongdoing. HR then tells him he's fired. He storms off. Now, this is where the hardcore revenge part comes in. I used to work for every single IT company in this town, or have connections to them somehow. Hell, I trained at least half of the management at the last company I worked for. My words have weight, so I make calls to all of the places I have ins at, which is literally everywhere in town, telling them to blacklist this guy. However, at 2 companies, I request that if he applies, I would like to show up and help them interview him. He applied to both jobs and I was sitting there in the meeting room. "Oh hey. Just wanted you to know that I knew Mr. Meat for years." Middle of the interview, I bring up his behavior with the audio from him telling me that he hopes my family member dies. I then tell my ex-manager, "Also just note, you may want to write this down, all the tech jobs in our area will have a copy of this audio. So you can go ahead and explain to them why you told me this and they can relay that to me." As soon as we get out into the parking lot, he swings on me and starts screaming, "I will duck and kill you. Duck you, duck you." I run back into the building and security detains him and calls the police. My buddy recorded this on his phone, as well as obtained a copy of the video from security. After a quick court case and going to jail, he shows up at my house with a knife screaming, "I'm going to duck and kill you. Ruin my career just because you are a witch." I think he had the address from working at the company with me. I called the police, got my gun, and explained the situation while I waited on the cops to show up. He proceeded to be detained and got sentenced to a 2-year stint in prison. When you get out, I hope you read this. You see this, you stupid duck. Next one is entitled Mum Tries to Get Me Fired, I Get Her Banned for Life. About 2 years ago I worked at a gym. I worked night shifts until 6 a.m., so not much usually happened. My manager loved myself and the guy, I'll call him Lee, that works with me on nights, since we did almost all the gym upkeep like cleaning and paperwork, and we also filled in day shifts info whenever they messaged us and said they forgot something. I worked there for about 3 or so years, so I knew how everything worked. I also have a service dog because of my severe PTSD and autism, and Cooperate approved of me having service dog with me. We have this segment in the sign-up sheet that states the yearly fee all members get so long as they're a member on yearly sign-ups, and we're required to verbally state it while we help get them signed up. Enter in entitled Mother. She came in, and entitled Mother walked up to the front desk, and then she yelled at me that I was stealing money from her son, and I calmly asked her, "Miss, could you explain?" I was really confused, and my service dog didn't react to her because she's a good girl. She then basically said that I was stealing money from her son by charging him a yearly fee. I got the member documents up and showed her the fee takeout. The member is a regular, and so long as you have a signed agreement, Cooperate charges the membership unless you call to cancel. Keep in mind I'm behind a large front counter desk, and service dog stays underneath the counter unless she alerts me. Service dog came out to stretch a bit as I was explaining why I wasn't stealing. Mind you, she has a large vest that says service dog and Cooperate, as well as management know for a fact that I have her HR approved of her being there already. Entitled Mother notices the dog, who's not doing anything, and then starts screaming to call the police since my dog was trying to attack her, which she wasn't. A few minutes pass and the cops come after my co-worker calls them up, having witnessed everything that's been happening. Before I could say anything, she talks about my dog like she wanted to have my service dog put down. I stayed calm and was trembling at this point since I was horrified of the situation, and the officer asks me my side of the story while entitled Mother is just staring like she was given the Best Person of the Year award. Lee was able to confirm what happened, and I pointed to our security camera above the front desk. Entitled Mother turned pale and went full return to monkey mode and started yelling at myself and the officer at this point. The cop didn't like her attitude and said if they need to, they'll come back and ask for security footage. That's when my co-worker and I nodded in response and said okay after giving him the hours our manager was usually in for work so he could get the footage from them. The cop took entitled Mother out of the store and said she was banned from the store until further notice. The manager heard about what happened by Lee, and he reviewed the tapes himself. It was decided from that point on she was permanently banned from the gym. Last one is titled, A Very Rude Couple Lies in Order to Cut in Line at a Baseball Game, Then Gets a Well-Deserved Comeuppance. My wife and I went to a Yankees game on a vacation to New York a few years back. We got the tickets online and arranged to pick them up at will call. Once we got there, we got in the line, which was about a 25 or 30-minute wait. No sooner did my wife and I get in line than this couple, who had been standing in a different line as we walked past them, approached us and demanded that they were in this line before we were. They accused us of cutting in front of them. It was a blatant lie, but since it was such a long line to begin with, allowing them to move in front of us would have virtually no effect. So, God forbid that we should hold these two douchebags up from the 10 seconds they would save by cutting in front of us. A few moments after we allowed them to move ahead of us, the gentleman behind me, who had walked up right behind them and witnessed the whole thing and also knew they were lying, said, "Do you see what I see?" and nodded towards them. I began to inspect the direction he was looking and quickly realized the couple were already holding their tickets. They thought they were in a line for the gate which, ironically, they had previously been standing in before moving to this one, I'm assuming because it seemed slightly shorter. I turned back to the gentleman behind me and quietly asked, should we say something? He looked me in the eye and then shook his head, no, with a devilish smile. Whispering to my wife, I informed her of our discovery and she had to stifle a laugh. For the next half hour, it was the most fun I think I've ever had while standing in a queue. You should have seen their faces when we finally reached the will call box and it finally dawned on them that there was no gate there. They both turned beet red with anger and stormed off, which took them a while because they tried to push their way back through the line, instead of taking the clear path designed to let them out, which only added to the hilarity. It was the closest I've ever come to literally rolling on the floor with laughter. Thanks for listening.